Okay, welcome everyone to the Super Hangout with none other than Jeremy Cioara. This is the second time he has been with us here in the community. He has a bunch of questions that he's going to answer. And if you have a question that you think of while the Hangout is going on, go ahead and pop your question up in the chat room or over here in the questions app inside of Google Hangouts. Without any further ado, here we go. Jeremy Cioara.
Hey. Good to hear from you, and good to have you joining us for any of the questions that you have. So please, as Jack said, if you have any questions, feel free to chat them in over on the side of your browser, and we can run through it. So I have a few questions from the blog, from Facebook, Twitter, from a lot of the Slack community participation. So I'll run through some of those while we're waiting for your questions to come in, but I'm always part and partial to those who are here with us right now. So if you have any questions, chat them in, and those will obviously get the most priority over all of them. So it's funny because I looked at the list of questions printed out, and the first one my eyes tracked to because it strikes right at the heart that I have, which is this one right here. I believe it's from Seth. It says, I enjoy teaching and I love networking and I'd like to become an online trainer. Any advice? Totally. So first off, training, teaching online, it's a completely different realm than teaching in front of a classroom. I've done both over the years, and you have so many more advantages, both from the learner side and from the training side by doing it online. The best thing that you could do if you want to dive into that world is to start your own blog. Start a little blog, start jotting up things, make up stuff. I mean, really get into the technology that you're interested in or whatever you want to teach. And when you find something really cool, start a blog post about it and start thinking about engaging titles. So you say, new CCNA. I know that's one of the topics that a lot of people want to know about. Here's the key things you need to know. There's a great engaging title, and then just start by writing. Don't do anything beyond writing originally, because that helps you start getting your thoughts straightened into how can I present information in a great way? How can I disseminate this? Then the next thing you want to do is go to a podcast style to where you add the audio. You say, okay, well, let me do a little writing and I'll add a little synopsis here, and you record yourself and see how it sounds, get some feedback from people that are starting to follow your blog. What do you think? Then if you're bold enough, add the video. And you don't have to add video. One of the things a lot of people think of when they do online training is what we're doing right now, where they go, we've got video and you have to have a stage presence and watch the camera and shift your eyes and all that kind of stuff. You actually don't have to do video at all to be a great online trainer. As a matter of fact, what we're doing right now, the video can sometimes detract from the training. Sometimes you can be staring at the person doing things like this all over the place, and you miss the concept of what's being done. The talking head doesn't actually add all that much. So don't gauge your significance as an online trainer if you do or do not have a good video presence. There's a lot you can do without video at all. So that's how I would get into it, and then you start submitting some of those to an organization. So that's how you could get in to be an online trainer. And I see a lot of viewers have joined since I originally started talking. So if you have any questions, chat them into the right-hand side. The people here obviously will get priority over the people that have chatted in previous questions. But in the meanwhile, let me look at the next one here on the list. And someone else is asking. They said, would you suggest taking different Cisco certification tracks before attempting one CCIE lab exams, like getting a few CCNPs before going to CCIE? No, actually I wouldn't. It depends on if you want to be a generalist or you want to be somebody who is truly an expert, because that's what the CCIE is. So if you want to be a generalist, if you want to be able to walk into an environment that has voice over IP phones, video streaming, you want to be a security guru and all those kind of things, then yeah, go with a multiple CCNA, CCNP approach. But if you want to be an expert, which is what the question said, zone in, because you're going to get too distracted by all the different technologies. There's no way you can learn all the different stuff. You start forgetting and evaporating. I mean, a lot of people have said to me, they're like, man, how do you remember all the stuff you do? And I don't. I actually don't at all. You know, every time I teach something, even though it's you know, it's something I've taught before, maybe it was 5 years ago, I'm literally reading books. I'm watching my own videos going, that's what it was. That's right. Okay. So there's only so much capacity. So if you're going for a CCIE, do that. Don't dilute yourself by getting into multiple CCNAs and I'll get a little into all these different worlds. So good. Next question. And again, I'm watching more and more people join. So if you have any questions, chat them in on the right-hand side. I'm just running through the list of questions that have been submitted via Twitter, the blog, all those different things. I'll grab this one right on the screen right now. It says, what book do you recommend for CCNA study? By far, go with the Cisco Press books. Cisco Press, I've actually written for them, and I can give you the inside scoop. Most people don't know Cisco Press is actually not Cisco. They are owned by Pearson, a really large publishing company, but they have direct access to the Cisco inside information. When you write for Cisco Press, you literally get the material they use to write the exam. You don't get the exam questions, you just get the material. So as an author, you have all the resources. So when you're looking for a book, there's other vendors that write books, but they don't have the same access to the inside information that Cisco Press does. So grab the Cisco Press material for that. I saw there was a question.
Yeah, Aaron Agostini, he just popped it up right now.
Yeah. So Aaron is saying, will there be big changes to the CCIE with SDN emerging? Hilarious. SDN, software defined networking, or Cisco ACI, one and the same. The ACI is essentially how Cisco does SDM, have been the #1 topic that I've been asked about this probably in the last year, 2 years. Let me first off bring up the people that don't know what it is. Software defined networking, ACI, is redefining the way we do network entirely. Networking has not changed for decades. So you've always had routers, you've always had switches, you've always had these network devices, firewalls that you go through, you program, you know, set up the network in the standard structure. New features have come out, they've gotten faster, but essentially the core of networking has changed. SDN, or ACI as Cisco calls it, is set up to change everything. What it does, if someone said you have 5 seconds to describe software-defined networking, what I would say is, instead of managing individual devices, routers, switches, firewalls, you set them up to connect to a central brain. Think of it as mainframe and dumb terminals, where the controller is the mainframe of the network, and all the network devices, your switches, your routers, your wireless access points, and everything else are dumb terminals. You no longer invest into configuring them because you have the central control that does it. And the power in that is not just the setup where you click, I mean, you have plug and play networks at that point, but also they can adapt to situations as a whole. You see a denial of service attack that started over here and is starting to flood your network. The controller can see that. It's almost like the Borg, right? And start changing the configurations and defenses in multiple network devices all at the same time. It's a central coordinator. Obviously, I would have gone above my 5 seconds to describe it, but that's it in a nutshell. So back to your question, Aaron, what will there be big changes to the CCIE with SDN emerging? You hit the keyword right there, emerging. What does that mean? It means 5 years, really best case, 10 years more realistically, before you see software-defined networking being like, all right, man, here it goes. Little known fact, Cisco has been pushing SDN, has been pushing ACI. Guess how many customers they have actually using SDN, ACI, application-centric infrastructure? 500. 500. So when you think about a world of Cisco customers, 500 using SDN or ACI, I got to stop saying that. It's the same thing, right? SDN/ACI. That's not many. And the reason why is because it changes everything and it integrates so far beyond the network. With SDN, you can actually have it talk to the application to where you're running a World of Warcraft server, right, on the network that can actually communicate to the controller and say, I need this much bandwidth, give me quality of service, and it can reconfigure the whole network. But to do that, you have to have APIs into the system, and applications have to be developed that actually communicate to them. And all the vendors, not just Cisco, all the vendors that are doing the software-defined networking thing have to agree. You have to have a giant parent mind that goes beyond just the network, that gets into monitoring the whole thing and implementing end-to-end. Anyway. There's so much to SDN. Aaron, I know you asked a simple question. That there's so much to SDN that isn't done yet. It's a raw cookie dough concept that needs to have more developed around it before you can start saying, I want to take a bite of that. So will there be big changes to the CCIE? Someday, yes. 5, best case, 10. There's more of where I would say you'll start seeing software-defined networking taking over the world. Good question. Any other questions that have shot in? I see Sunny there. Hi, Sunny. Back to the questions that I have in my list. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to chat them in. One of the hot topics, and I've seen a lot of questions about this, is the CCNA update. Question coming from Ricardo on Twitter said, would you change your lab recommendations from what they were to something new in the new CCNA? No, I would not. The new CCNA actually just becomes more concept introduction than anything else, meaning Cisco has modernized the CCNA. They've gone on their normal 4-year update. So they've said, okay, let's add the concepts that have happened in the last 4 years to the CCNA, just at a concept level, and let's actually remove some of the things. Like one of the things you see removed with the new CCNA is OSPF, which I would say that's probably more than anything where people have said, why? How did you? Why would you remove OSPF and put RIP, which is a protocol that people just don't touch anymore? Why would you put that back in its place? And I read Cisco 100% when they did that, and I go, good for you, Cisco. Nobody at a CCNA can learn OSPF the way it's supposed to be learned. There's not enough time. CCNA is a tip of the iceberg on everything, to where you get a lot of concepts with little depth, because that's where the CCNP and the CCIE come in, is they broaden out all of those concepts. And OSPF, it's almost like they used to throw it out there and say, here's what an area is, here's what an OSPF router config looks like, go for it. And Cisco says, we're doing an injustice. You need to learn about routing concepts, and what protocol can you master in a matter of an hour with CCNA? RIP. And yes, it's still around. Yes, it still works. Yes, nobody uses it in the real world, but yes, it conveys the concept of what a routing protocol is. So back to the question, Ricardo, no, I wouldn't suggest changing the lab equipment at all. I would still say grab a 800 series router, grab some 2950 series switches, grab a 3550 for some layer 3 switching, put those things in a lab environment, and you're set for the new CCNA. Because the main thing that you're learning is some new concepts, not configuration. Matter of fact, they've pulled back on some of the configuration. They want you to be able to converse and understand when somebody says, yeah, it's in the cloud, you know what that means. When someone says, oh yeah, SDN is coming, like the previous questions, you go, okay, I understand what SDN is going to be and what this is. When someone says, yeah, we use a wireless controller, you may not know how to configure it. As a matter of fact, you won't in the CCNA, but you can have an intelligent conversation and go, okay, yeah, so the controller is managing all the wireless access points. You're rolling out a new WAP policy or something like that to do that. So that's what they wanted in the new CCNA, is more big picture, more of, can you assemble all of the pieces that you need? Because if you know that, you've got enough to figure out the rest. It's an odd way of putting it, but what Cisco's after is eliminating the fear. When you first get into the network concepts, most people are like, wireless controller, I don't know anything about it, I'm not touching it. Whereas if you know what a wireless controller is, you know what it does, maybe you know how to get to the web interface, like here's how you get to that username and password. They know if you're good at networking, you're gonna go right on Google and say, what now, wireless controller? what now, software-defined networking, and start assembling all these puzzle pieces and putting them together if you've been introduced to the concept. If it's totally foreign, like for instance, Linux back in the day, when someone would say, yeah, it's on Linux, I go, yep, close that door. I'm done with that, because that, Linux is not my world. So that's a lot of what Cisco's after now with the new CCNA is unpacking a lot of concepts at a high level instead of a lot of depth. Good. I think I've hit the questions that are on my list. Jack, you
pretty much. I'd like to throw one at you.
Yeah.
You kind of touched on it. Okay, so ICND1 is getting rid of OSPF. They're putting all of OSPF into ICND2. Along with that, they're introducing eBGP, MPLS, and then the SDN. So the other two protocols have traditionally been a staple within CCNP.
Yep.
Why are they bringing it down to the NA level at this point?
Good question. Again, to provide an introduction to the technology, to remove the fear. So you've seen now BGP, you know where that fits as a puzzle piece. They're not at all going to be going into configuring BGP, into the attributes of BGP, into the metric of BGP, and all the different elements that fit together in that. But they want you to know, here's where that fits, because BGP is a puzzle piece as you get into, for instance, MPLS, which is a network type of modern magnitude versus frame relay, which they removed. They said, yes, it was a rite of passage. Now it's time to yank that out, replace it with a modern, and you could almost see their gears turning. If we put MPLS in, then we've got to at least give them something on BGP, because it's so essential to that technology. They fit together like peanut butter and jelly. So we've got to at least introduce those concepts to them so that they can have the intelligent conversation with provider X.
Awesome. And I'd like to expand on a question that you had a few minutes ago.
Yeah.
We were talking about labs. How do you feel about viral with all the considerations with the new CCNA version 3 coming up? Is viral a good choice? How about mixing virtual with real live gear?
Yep. Great question. And I continue to see the viewers climb. So if you have any questions as well, feel free to chat them in. This is actually an age-old question, and I put a caveat on my response to whether I'm talking about somebody just getting into networking or somebody that's been in networking. Matter of fact, the last hangout I had here at CBT Nuggets, I had Karen and a couple other people in the room with me, and I asked them, similar to how I'm talking to you right now, Jack. I said, I heard everybody at CBT Nuggets has to get Network Plus certified.
Yeah, I remember.
Is that true? And they go, yeah. And I go, how do you feel about that? And they're like, and I'm like, okay, here's the problem. And now I'm sure I could find many different situations, but I said, you haven't seen it. You haven't lived it. You haven't found a need for it yet. If you and I were sitting there, and I'm talking about Karen, and we were in this room, this little square of a room, and said, let's build a network. Let's bring in an internet connection. Then I could find that wall jack, and I could trace it back with you, and I could take it to a router and show you, hey, okay, so here's where the internet fits in, and they're bringing in the connection right here. We've got to get that to the inside, but we have to protect the inside from the outside. And I could start showing you physically, visually, let's build this infrastructure. And at that point, I could get anybody excited about networking, even if at the end when I left they're like, okay, I'm gonna go back to licking ice cream, or what I should say that, like, or whatever I'm doing at the time, playing Nintendo downstairs, right? So I could at least for a moment be like, okay, here's how it fits together. And with understanding becomes one of those things where passion starts to grow. When you start thinking, I can do that, I can get it. That's where I come back to, you've got to go physical for the initial labs. You have to go with physical devices so that you can see it, you can relate to it, you can build it yourself. Then once you have all of that understanding, go with GNS3, go with viral. And even then, the advantage that viral has is Cisco built it. So number one, you mitigate all of the licensing concerns that everybody has with GNS3, but also they provide a lot of labs with viral that give you purpose. there's a famous quote: "Without vision, people perish. Without purpose, they die." And that's the thing is, whether you buy physical lab gear or you go with GNS3 or Viral, if you just come to a blank slate and you go, okay, I'm here to learn Cisco, let me boot up a router and get a switch connected. Before long, you go, this is lame. You know, I have nothing to do. There's no purpose here for me. So Viral gives you a lot of those objectives that you can go after. Whereas GNS3, you either have to have a community that gives you labs for GNS3 and you complete them and build them yourself, or you have to have somebody that will script out and say, hey, here's what you should do with it. You've got to have some purpose. That's the big difference between the two. My preference, I've worked with both of them. GNS3 all the way. Primarily, it's free. There is huge community support for it. You can go GNS3 Labs, and 500,000 people have written labs for it that you can start integrating. And if you need help, there's people that you can join in. Whereas Viral is a little more Cisco centric, as by design, to where it's almost it's like I'm scared to have this conversation with the public here, but the conversation we were having just before we sat down, Apple versus Windows. And I said, and don't throw a tomato at me, but I said, I'm a Windows guy. I'm with the enterprise. I love Windows because there's no boundaries. I can go and I can build my own thing in Windows, and I don't have to run into all these walls that Apple has put into it. That's GNS3 and Viral. As with GNS3, I feel like there's no boundaries. Yes, it blows up a lot more, and yes, I got to figure out how to fix it. But it's a lot more open and a lot more me that can customize it. So good. Joshua is asking the question, CSR, I'm assuming 1000V or 100V. Is there anything it can't do? No, it pretty much does it all, outside of save you money, because it's a very expensive piece of equipment, or virtual gear from Cisco. So good. Other thoughts, other questions? We're approaching the top of the hour.
We are approaching time limit. We do have a few questions from the community, and it's coming from a few different people. Adam, Jacob, and Anthony. Their questions are actually pretty similar if you're looking at what I'm looking at. Adam is talking about setting up a private VoIP network. Jacob and Anthony are both talking about working out in the field. Do you have some advice for them that you can shoot over real quick?
Yep. Yeah, sounds good. I didn't even see this. There's a whole other. I don't need you guys to ask questions. I got a whole page of questions right here. Adam, let me just bring this one. A good friend of mine is breaking into the IT field. We chat often on Skype. Got an idea for learning. We want to set up an encrypted channel for our phone calls. I know where this is going. I'm thinking GRE tunnels, IPsec. We'll use dynamic DNS. Good. So the actual question is saying, does anyone have any recommendation on phones, routers, voice over IP modules? Good. Okay. So let me summarize Adam's question to you. He's saying, I'm trying to get into IT. I'm doing it with a friend. We thought we would set up a tunnel between our two locations and a voice over IP system so that we could call each other and doing this. I love it, because that is the essence of how you're going to learn. You're going to try and set this up. It's going to break. It's not going to work, and you're going to figure it out. That's how people learn. So what would I recommend to do something like that? So I'm assuming budget conscious. I would go cheap. Go grab a couple Cisco 7960 IP phones. Get them from $10 off of eBay. Yeah. Grab some 3550 switches. Get them for $20, $30. Layer 3 switch, power over Ethernet, 100 megabits per second. Grab one for each location. Then go on eBay and type in CUCM software. There are people that sell call manager software, which if you get the software, it runs in demo mode, which gives you like 20 licenses or something to set up your own voice over IP system. Download a copy of VMware ESX and build the world. Build your system. Oh, and routers, grab those 800 series routers. I always recommend the 871s to set up the tunnel between the two locations. It sounds like fun. And that will actually be how you can build a lab that you can actually get the experience you need. And that one thing, Adam, would be amazing for your learning because you're actually building the network infrastructure. So think routing, think switching at the foundation, and then overlaying voice over IP, think call manager, think phone configuration, think quality of service on top of that. So you're actually specializing in 2 different tracks at the same time. That one concept can get you, if you do it well, 30% of what you need to be a CCNP, routing and switching, and a CCNP voice. I know that sounds crazy, but that completes your CCNA and CCNP if you do that and you do it well and you learn all the concepts around it. That's why I'm telling you those hands-on labs are so valuable. Jacob is saying, for the city Wi-Fi I'm building, I absolutely want no end user authentication. In my mind, it's best to have users accept terms of use and be redirected to a company splash place. Okay, it goes on and on. Okay, any opinions? Actually, I was just asked this about a week ago. City of Mesa contacted me, and they said, we have a dilemma. Half the IT people said we should have public Wi-Fi, which is what you're after, and half of them say no, we should have public Wi-Fi, but put a key on it, which keeps the people off of our public Wi-Fi that shouldn't be there. Which do you suggest? I used to be the guy that said lock it down. Don't have any public Wi-Fi. Always have an encryption key, even if it's like 11111 is your passcode. At least it eliminates the people from getting on your network that don't belong there. I've actually come full circle. I suggest having an open wireless network. No authentication, splash page that says here's the terms of service. Splash page covers you legally, that if somebody does something creepy on your network, you can prosecute. But the big thing is the pre-shared keys end up costing you far more in the long term than anything else, because first off, you have this key out there, right? It's a public key that changes every now and then because you're supposed to, right? There's a passcode of 10 ones. If that's your passcode and you don't change it for a year, then you might as well have no authentication anyway. And all you're doing is costing yourself the time that anytime somebody comes and says, what's the gas password? Oh, it's 10 ones. Okay, 10, you know, for some reason, 10 ones. Okay, did you mean tens or ones? And I mean, just think of all the time over the years you're going to spend giving people the pre-shared key and fixing their device when they type it incorrectly. And then that one time a year when you're like, all right, we got to change it because we got too many people on the public Wi-Fi. You change it, and now you've got all these people that were on there that you didn't even know were using the public Wi-Fi that suddenly say, yeah, I've lost my, I've lost my head. So anyway, that is my answer to that. My opinion is put some content filtering up, throw a splash page up, and you are good to go for your public Wi-Fi.
All right, we are 2 minutes out. We do have one more question. I don't know if you think you can hammer that out in 2 minutes. I know you have a tight schedule, or if you can just throw in some last thoughts for us.
Yeah, I think I can take the last one. And if I talk too long, stop me. It says, in my current situation, okay, here we go. In my current situation, I'm a director/partner at a small data cabling company. We're doing really well, some clients, okay, trying to home network, all Cisco. Okay, my question, would it be best to get my certification and then one, try and find a contract work that includes CCNA as my candidates, or two, try and bring Cisco technologies and opportunities in the business, or three, find a new job as a Cisco engineer? Wow, great, actually a great question from Anthony. 3 different ways. Okay, so he works for a cabling company and he's wanting to get into Cisco networking. So one, do I get the knowledge and help my own company? Two, do I just start doing some consulting on the side? Or C, do I go get another job? That one is 100% your call. I would say if it's me and I like the company that I'm working with, this data cabling company, I would help them out. I would start having conversations with them and say, hey, I think we could start offering, with the knowledge I have, a new service. What if, we did the cabling and I also installed the switches for them and at least put a base configuration on it? Now your company may say, whoa, we don't want to go there. We are a cabling company. That is all we do. At which point you go, okay, well then, do I have your permission to talk to these clients and say, I will help them on the side? Go with option B at that point, where, I mean, you've got a natural client base. You're doing the cabling, you're talking to the people there on site, you establish your own reputation, and you say, hey, I can set up the rest of this network. I'll tell you what, I'll do it for nothing. I mean, for, you know, $300 or something that is like, that's a no-brainer. Why would I pay, you know, somebody thousands to come in and set up my network when you're saying $300, which makes it at least something in your mind. Or, I mean, go hog wild and just be like, hey, I'm interning in this. I'm learning something new. I'll do it for free. You start gaining the experience, building a resume in the Cisco world. I would not recommend either B, going independent and doing your own consulting without a company helping out getting clients, because it's like cold calling at that point, or C, ditching your old job completely unless there's ill will there. So hopefully that gives you a good direction to go.
And that is it. You took it right up to the wire, Jeremy. I want to thank you so much for taking time to sit with us here in the community.
Yeah, no problem.
And the recording of this will be available later today. Thank you all for attending. Bye now.